Hello, welcome to the Last Supper of Outcasts, and I'm your host, Judas Iscariot. Today is Tuesday, June 23rd, 2026. Not that it matters. And today's quote of the day is by Frederick Lewis Allen. And it goes as follows. It is always hard to mobilize an unimaginative public against a vague threat. And to me, what Mr. Allen seems to be implying here is that a specific threat works much more efficiently. Wouldn't you agree? Just think about that, and especially in light of the last 7 years of what we have all been through. And on to the topic. And I'm getting somewhere with this topic, and it's a little on the longer side, but there is a point and a conclusion. So please bear with me. And here we go. Very early in my real estate career, I overheard my broker talking to her second in command at the brokerage, and I remember her saying something along the lines of, this is not an exact quote, but it's close. And she said something along the lines of, imagine if all the real estate agents joined together and agreed to set the standard commission rate, reducing competition across the board. And as of this day, today, I still really don't know if she was predicting something she wished would happen, or if she was aware that it already existed and was happening, because it was. And this lady was pretty bright, so I'm suspecting the latter. She knew that it was happening. And I think about that to this day, approximately 30 years later. I still think about her musing about that. And the monopoly my broker was suggesting already existed in the trade association affectionately called the NAR, or the National Association of Realtors. And lo and behold, the National Association of Realtors was sued in several major antitrust class action lawsuits. And for those that don't know antitrust, I had to look it up because I needed to brush up myself. Antitrust refers to a body of laws designed to promote fair competition, and prevent businesses from engaging in monopolistic, key word there, monopolistic or anti-competitive practices. The NAR apparently settled for $418 million. And in my opinion, that amount is a slap on the wrist. It's simply the cost of doing business, considering the income that the National Association of Realtors generates. I mean, this association, or this trade association, is one of the biggest and most powerful lobbying organizations in Washington, D.C. It's similar to the settlements that banks pay when they're caught with manipulating posting orders, and that's a whole nother video right there. Or they manipulate posting orders in order to generate insufficient funds fees, or manipulating metals markets such as banks like J.P. Morgan, which is the biggest in the entire world, let alone the country. It's and they get fined, and it's big news. And the fine sounds like, oh, we really got them, but it's factored in to the bank's business. They know things like this are going to happen. It's a drop in the bucket to these enormous institutions. And back to the NAR lawsuit, the changes made to accommodate the lawsuit, as far as I have been able to perceive, are completely incommensurate with the actual power they yield or wield. I'm not sure how you really say that word. In short, the NAR is still, in my opinion, a monopoly. And it's possibly a more powerful monopoly than ever. If you're a real estate agent but not a member of the NAR, to give an example, you're probably going to have a much tougher time conducting your business. There is a difference between being a real estate agent and being a member of the NAR. I believe there are limits. If you're just a real estate agent, there's limits to the multiple listing service. There's all sorts of barriers to you being able to conduct business, and let's just leave it at that. That tells you a lot about what you need to know about the NAR, and they're in my opinion, they are still a super powerful monopoly, and that's not going to end because they're paying our government officials to have that not end. And all this talk of monopolies also reminded me of a book I read entitled Lords of Creation by Frederick Lewis Allen, who wrote the quote that I read at the beginning of this video. He was the editor of Harper's Magazine. He's a notable historian and a graduate of Harvard. Not that that means anything. But this book is also, I guess it's on the banned book list. You're not supposed to be able to get your hands on this. And I did it. It's not really banned. You can get it I got it at the Buffalo Library. And I don't recall having any problem, but supposedly it's banned. And this is the kind of book you're only going to know about if you search for these types of books. And in this book, Mr. Allen outlines his belief that the Great Depression was the inevitable result of unchecked power. He posits that a small group of Wall Street financiers and industrialists ruthlessly, keyword there, ruthlessly concentrated wealth and manipulated the economy, setting the stage for the 1929 stock market crash. I wonder if Ben Bernanke mentioned that when he was talking about the crash of 2008. And he was supposedly a Great Depression expert. I don't recall him ever saying anything about the Morgans or the Rockefellers or the Vanderbilts. And in Mr. Allen's book, to continue, tycoons and robber barons, such as the Morgans, the Carnegies, the Rockefellers, the Vanderbilts, the railroad robber barons, they all built vast monopolies, there's that word again, in transportation, steel, and energy without regulation or moral imperative. Ultimate financial power was concentrated within America's top 1%, allowing them to reshape the country's economic destiny entirely in their own interest. Sound familiar? I mean, we're going through this right now as we speak. This is an ongoing process as far as I'm concerned. What I'm talking about right now are just events, families that are leading up to where we are now. This is in direct connection to where we come from and what the plan for the country and the world is, in my opinion. I could be wrong, but uh, I'm just I'm just planting seeds. That's all. And Mr. Allen also viewed holding companies, which were key in such families and businesses as the Rockefellers, the Morgans, and the Vanderbilts. They were holding companies were the primary tools that these financiers and robber barons used in the 1920s to consolidate massive corporate control, or once again, monopolies. They also used the holding companies to inflate stock values through speculation and skim immense profits off the American economy. When I lived in Buffalo, I worked for a holding company, and it presented itself as a community bank. I'm not going to say the name because I still have friends that work there. Uh, and this company, this community bank, has connections with the DuPonts, and I'm sure it has connections with some of these families. This company goes back quite a long ways. So I think they had something very big to do with the building of the economy we're looking at today. And they're just a community bank. And they also realize that Buffalo, New York is a very kind of an impoverished community. So they don't pay their employees anything because they know they don't have to. But I digress. And lastly, now, why all this talk about monopolies, you might ask? And I'm glad you asked. I have a thesis, which was also suggested but sort of hidden in Kenneth Galbraith's BBC television series, The Age of Uncertainty. And I've posted a link in the description of this video. I highly recommend you check this series out. It's very revealing and very thought-provoking. And this is coming from a major economist, and as far as I'm concerned, a brilliant intellectual. And my thesis is this. And I'm not saying this is a fact, it's just my thesis, and it's trying to get you to think. The oligarchs, the elites, or whatever term you prefer for those at the top of our social, political, and economic hierarchy, may have far more common interests than conflicts. Let me just repeat that. The oligarchs, the elites, or whatever term you prefer for those at the top of our social, political, and economic hierarchy, may have far more common interests than conflicts. Or to put it more politely, what if competition at the top is real, but only within limits that never threaten the system itself? Think about that. I don't think I'm off here too far. I might be off a little, but I don't think too far. I believe the powers at the top have created or are in the midst of creating their own indestructible monopoly and have been doing so for at least as long as I've been alive, which is close to 60 years. That's a long time, folks. And in order for the concentration of power to work, they need to appear as if they're actually fighting one another, when the actual truth is they are working in tandem, closely in tandem. Just ask yourself this question: why do so many supposedly opposing institutions benefit from the same outcomes? Think about that. That's a pretty powerful question. And in the television series I'm speaking of, Mr. Galbraith speaks about, does anybody remember that the Russians and the US were allies during World War II? And then immediately after the war ended, how we became immediate enemies? And he suggests that both parties realized that they could benefit more economically by being enemies than they could by being allies. Meaning they could stockpile more weapons, more helicopters, more defenses, just from that alone. And that's really something powerful to think about. And it's totally deviant. And lastly, and I'm sure you all have, but has anybody ever heard the term one world government? How do you, as thinking, feeling human beings, suppose the best way to pull this one world government off would be? That's a question for you to think about yourself. I'm not going to answer it for you. And lastly, what the thing that really got me thinking about this topic of monopolies, and the fact that we might be dealing with something here that we've been totally bamboozled on, is the unfolding events as late as today in Iran. And Iran and may provide a useful case study in how rapidly geopolitical narratives can shift. Keep an eye on this, folks, because we're already we're giving them a lot of money, and they're making it seem like it's for some kind of reparations, and there's a whole lot of word magic going on. So that's about it, really. But I really do believe I'm onto something here, and it's just that, but that's just me. It's something for you to consider and to think about. I'm just planting seeds, and I'm imploring you to think for yourself and to come to your own conclusions. Keep an eye on the situation in Iran, folks, because today it changed drastically in terms of the whole reasoning for what is happening is the things that America is doing. They're reducing the sanctions on the banks in Iran. We're giving them a whole bunch of money. It's really something else. So just I would suggest keep an eye on the situation unfolding in Iran, and that's going to give you a lot of information as to what's going on here and what has been going on here for, like I said, as least as long as I've been alive, and it's only going to accelerate, folks. This is, to me, this whole thing. America already no longer exists. It's a planned destruction. They're destroying the poor and the middle class, and there's a whole new paradigm that is going to replace what we've all been raised to believe. So that's it for now. Please leave a comment if you agree, disagree. What are your thoughts? Please like the video. Please subscribe to the channel. I hope you got something out of the video. I hope it made you think. And I am imploring you to think for yourself. I'm not trying to shove anything down your throat. Trust me. I'm just trying to make people think. And that's it for tonight. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching. I'll talk to you soon, and I hope you have a great night. Thank you again.